Week 2 of The Artist Way is all about how identity as a shared experience is so challenging to negotiate as an artist. Like, why do we have such a hard time going out and doing things, putting your art out, being in front of other people, changing? And why audacity is almost as important, if not in regard to results, more important than the actual amount of skill that you have as an artist. Julia talks a lot about how audacity is what sets people apart, not because it makes someone better, but because it allows people to take up the space that they need. Because identity is a matter of shared space, right? It's who you are, but then also who others believe you to be. And so one of the hardest things for artists to deal with is the fact that you aren't the only one experiencing you, right? Like, the first chapter was all about recovering a sense of safety and was all about personal blockages, the voices in your head. How do you deal with your own frustrations? This second chapter is all about how do other people deal with you? How do other people deal with your image, who you are? People that mean you well or people maybe that don't. How do they digest your identity, right? Graduations, weddings, funerals, all of these events are about people having a safe and understandable way to process a change in your identity. Sure, they're about you, but those are about other people. And that just goes to show you, in order for people to collectively be able to change, you need some sort of milestone or marker sometimes for people to go, okay, I know you're married because you had a wedding, or I know your birthday passed because you had a birthday party, or you had a whatever. You had something to signify this change, this inner change, right, in an outer way. And so as an artist, it's so challenging to get through those kinds of things, because a lot of the times for people that aren't necessarily with us or next to us, those changes aren't as loud. And so this chapter is very much about what to do when people that are around you, that love you, that may mean well, are seeing those changes and may not know how to respond, right? Because they may have hinged part of their identity on who you've shown yourself to be, and you're letting go of that. And people that maybe don't mean well, who, she calls crazy makers, how they respond typically when you take up more space in your life. But before we get into that, welcome or welcome back. My name is Matt. I am a multi-hyphenate artist and creative out of Philadelphia, documenting my creative journey right here on the internet. So without further ado, this was a chapter that challenged me. This chapter challenged me largely because so much of the work that I'm doing right now is about identity, is about this piece here where, like, you have to kind of not negotiate, but sort through how okay it is for you to be yourself. So much of our identity is taught to us. Like, we spend so much time just learning about it. Like, as babies, we enter into this world not knowing anything and just mirroring the people that brought us here in order to survive. And so identity is something that human beings just naturally have to grow into. And it doesn't take too long, but depending on what kind of environment you grow up in, it can be harder or easier for you to step into what is comfortable for you. There's that famous saying where it's like the artist is the child that survived, where it's like typically people are artists because they didn't have enough room for themselves and now they're trying to build it for themselves. Identity being a shared experience is so sticky because it's like you learn your name because people tell you what your name is. You learn how old you are because people tell you about the concept of age. You learn about all these other things that people respond and affirm to you. You think your art is good because people, yes, tell you that you think your art is good. Or at the very least, you might have one or two confirming experiences when you're really, really young. I know I did, where I was like, wow, I like the way this looks. And somebody just didn't poo-poo on it. And I was like, I'm going to do this forever now. And even though I've gone back and forth and had people go, this is bad or that's this. Those early experiences were really, really hefty, because navigating relationships is navigating identity to a certain degree. People need love and connection more than anything, especially artists, especially people that are going out and doing things and doing introspection and then sharing it with the world. Love and connection is the thing that we put on the line almost the most when we are first putting ourselves out there and just as we continue to create. And two types of people that Julia kind of hones in on this chapter are the friends that are blocked. Like, so friends that know you, that are well-meaning, but like they have their own blockages internally. They have their own internal real estate that's like, I can't do this. And the parts of their identity are staked in you, right? How you see yourself and how you've seen yourself and how you see them. And so they go, okay, this is my friend. We're along here. This is how we go. And this is what I know. And so as you change and as you grow, they're like, well, do I have to change with you, or do I have to, or like that doesn't fit who I know you to be, and different things like that. And the other group of people are crazy makers, which I think colloquially, the streets would just call the crazy makers narcissists nowadays. That's what, like, very literally, Julia ends the crazy maker section with a call for people that are around those crazy makers to go to, like, I think a Codependence Anonymous or like an Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever. Like she's talking about narcissists, and she's like, yeah, a lot of artists are crazy makers because they did it. But and I found that so funny because I'm like, I don't know if that's an ahead of your time kind of thing, but like even though the language is different, the vibes are the same. But the crazy makers, as opposed to their friends that mean well and want you to say the same, those crazy makers want space from you. So your friends that are blocked want you to keep space as it is. Crazy makers want space from you. They are the ones that are calling you at 3 a.m. in the morning, sobbing about this and sobbing about that, and not caring about what's going on with you. They're the ones that are judging themselves based off of how much of you give to them in a way that is not healthy for you and not respectful of your boundaries. And she was like, unfortunately, crazy makers tend to be the ones that end up out and doing art a lot more and out and in positions of power a lot more because they have more audacity. And here's why audacity is a little more important than talent. It is because to take up space in life, you have to ask for it. You have to ask for it. You have to push for it. You have to push for it again. And very literally, what she says is like, all too often, it is audacity and not talent that pushes an artist to the center stage. And I agree. Some of the times that the things that have gotten me as an artist ahead have not been because I'm like better than anybody else, and not been because I'm like, oh, this and da. But the handful of times where I really like pushed and was like, I really want this, that's what got me there. I just got up and got in front of people. And I'm trying to do that again now. Like that's really what the difference is. But you'll find so often that people that are out there are the ones that are out there. And you might be more skilled. You might be more talented. You might have a better way of speaking. You might have a better way of thinking. You might have a better method. But you are not taking up the space that you should. And she says a lot of times when people and artists have interacted with crazy makers in their life, the challenge is that they don't want to become crazy makers themselves. And I know for sure part of what has been like a point of friction for me is that I don't want to be the guy that's like, as an artist, harming other people, or as an artist acting like I don't know how many times I've heard about like my favorite artists being psychopaths or being sociopaths, and I go, no, not you. You're my favorite, right? Like, but then like you hear about them backstage, and the people that work with them are like, I've hated this person for years, but this person is the one that's willing to make a decision. That goes to show you how valuable it is to have audacity, how valuable it is to be willing to take up space. And if you have the heart to already be concerned about how people are experiencing the space that you take up in their lives and the space that they genuinely give you, then you're already on track to like not to ruin people's lives. But yeah, that was just an interesting balance going over it in the narrative. The end of the chapter was a little weird in that, like, not that she wasn't talking about things that were important. They were still important. In fact, I thought some of the things that she was talking about was beautiful. She talks about like skepticism and inner skepticism, which I felt like was a bit more of a rehash from the first week. And it's a good reminder. And I think she should keep talking about it throughout the course, because it's not like you stop critiquing yourself. But I really did like some of the quotes that she put in. Like there was one where she talked about how very often a creative block manifests itself as an addiction of fantasy, which I was like, banger. Because it's true. Like the fantasy, we were talking about how others perceive you, right? And how you perceive others, and that how that's a shared space of identity. But another thing about identity is very much like the frictionless space of fantasy. Like if you want to close your eyes right now and imagine that you're an astronaut, boom, you're an astronaut. Boom, you're on the moon. Boom, you have a smoothie in your hand. Amazing. If you wanted to do that in real life, it would take you a lot of time and a lot of energy. Like it would not be a painless process to do. I think that this piece right here about like being addicted to fantasy and addicted to what you could do, what you could be, how you could go about it, having plans, having things in your head, and imagining you're this, there, and there. Like visualization is important, but that's a huge portion of the reason why audacity is like what should push you forward, because action is a huge part of that feedback loop. And you can have all the thoughts and all the fantasies in the world, but you need to be making real life experiments, because once you get data back from real life, you will know how to pivot. And that is where creativity truly tends to flourish, because then you get to see where the limitations are. Like life, the fantasy is where all the yes is, and life is where all the no starts. Right? Life is going to be the one to tell you no. Life is going to be the one to tell you, well, you got to go to astronaut school, or you got to go do this, or you got to go do that. I don't know what it takes to be an astronaut, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like life will tell you no, and how you overcome that no, the space between the yes in here and the no out here, that is where the creativity is actually executed as an artist. So I think it was really, really wonderful. And then she got this chapter off of talking about like the power of attention. She like does a beautiful anecdote about like her grandmother and and how her attention to detail is what kept her sane in an insane world. It's very beautiful writing. But yeah, so that's that part right there. I'm going to talk about my own personal, I'll talk a little more about what I experienced this week. But before I get into my own personal experience, if you're liking this, John, hit a little like button. I'm trying to get better at the YouTube stuffs. Thank you. So this week's tasks were all about kind of like, they were more check-in stuff. So it was more visualizations about the kinds of life that you would want, more of an understanding about how much of the life that you want you're taking up. Like we did like a life pie where you cut it up into 6 pieces and you see where you're lopsided. It was interesting. I need to play more and I also need to work out more. Like those ones are fun. And I don't know, like the actual tech and tasks I did, what I found to be the most challenging and intriguing in this actual week was seeing how much of my own personal power I have staked in the will of other people and what my parents need from me and what my family sees this and what my friends see that. So a lot of the tasks this week were just like, they were more visualizations and more fantasy lives. She was like, come up with 5 more lives you want to do, or come up with 20 things that you would do and think about what you would want to do for your artist date. My artist date this week it wasn't as long as I would like for it to be. Like I went to Barnes & Noble, I picked out some manga, I was going to start drawing, but I didn't spend as much time as I want to. And I think this week I'm going to really stick my feet in the sand and really do some fun stuff. But yeah, like task wise, I hit all my goals. I think this week, in regard to just the identity portion, so much of what I was digesting was how much I have defined myself by the shortcomings of the people that brought me up. So much of my peace, so much of my joy, so much of my strength, I placed on what people did about me as a child. Like my mom didn't do this, my dad didn't do this, and not even like a blamey way, just like this must mean this about me. And I'm still kind of getting that stuff off of me. And as an artist, it's been so interesting because it's like how I was parented is how I'm parenting myself. I'm like, I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to do this before I can make the music I want to make, or before I can make the clothes I want to make, or how do I do this, or how do I... And I don't know, it's been so fascinating because some of the things I did in conjunction with this, not just the work that was in the actual book, but this week, I also like grabbed a bunch of like my notes and my diary pieces and my whatever else is, or my journal pieces to sound manly, my journal pieces over the past year during my recovery. And I put them into a large language model, and then I just asked questions based off of the notes. I was like, what does the author think is their problem? And it's me. I go, what does the author think is their problem? And what is the author's actual problem? Like, what does the author think their life wound is? And what is their actual wound? What are 3 things the author could do to grow? Like looking at myself from a third party perspective, because I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know what I look like to other people. Like people can tell me what they think I look like. People can tell me whatever, but I don't know. And so that was so painful. It's actually very, very painful, but very, very insightful. It has put me in a place and put my stomach in a place where it's like, I want to be more mindful and more diligent about the ways that I show up for myself. Doing that exercise helped me to look at things from a third party perspective, which I think goes back to the identity piece. Like, what do I look like? It's really hard to tell because I'm invested in my own whatever and I can't see from the outside. And I got really, really great insights about the things that have been limiting me that in the way that I've been speaking, I know, but in the way that I've been thinking aren't clear. It has not been clear to me the ways that I've been limited by my own thinking, by my own actions. And I can see from the way that I've written and from my actions, like, oh, this is who I am. And this is what would actually change my life. And so this week that's coming up is week 3. It's a week on recovering a sense of power, which I think is going to be all about anger, which is great because I have rage in my body all the time. So I'm so excited for this week, and I will absolutely, you're going to hear from me. But yeah, all in all, this week was very, very interesting. And yeah, I would love to hear what your journeys have been like. So talk down in the comments below if you're going along with me, or if you've already done this, I would love to hear what week 2 was like for you. And the next one is right here. So I'll see you.